Len Vaughan Williams is a photographic historian and has lived in the village for most of his life. He has also written 3 photographic books about the village. Here he discusses the changes he has seen and what he remembers most about Felinheli.
I can remember the railway going through the village, the station in use. Part of the railway, there has been some talk lately of reopening the railway, but I can't see how they can do that, because there was, above where the children's play area is on the beach, there was a huge landslip there after the railway was closed, and that of course prevents now them building, I would imagine, a new railway. It was a very big building, much bigger than was necessary. Still there, it's empty now. Pennington's, the stationers, wholesale stationers, did use it as their warehouse, but they've since moved recently, so the place is empty. And hopefully, it needs a bit of tender loving care, and hopefully somebody will come from somewhere, find somebody and do it up, or at least save it from deteriorating any further. It would be a shame to see it. Before then, the station was very small. It was a station house, just a few yards the Bangor side of the main station. And it's been converted now. It's still called Hen Station. And Alan Jones has done a very good job of converting that, and still retain some of the style of the old building.
I've tried to keep everything originally as it was. Obviously, we've extended the building, but we've tried to keep the old windows and everything as it was, basically. Well, within reason. As I told you now, we're sitting in the old waiting room, and even on the windowsill, I've come across old graffiti, where people have been sitting down and carving their names into the windowsills, waiting for a train or whatever. It's part of the history of the house, and we've tried to keep everything like that.
The railway landslip in 1984 on Carnarvon Road led to the increasing demand for a bypass for the village, and on the 30th of March 1991, a protest led by Councillor W.O. Jones, backed by fellow councillor Mrs. Betty Williams and Batallasarn, along with a good number of villagers, to blocking the road through the village for a period of 15 minutes. One of the protesters, Mrs. Mary Bever, was determined not to move. This led to the construction of the bypass, which was opened on the 28th of April 1994.
Wonderful bypass. At least you can cross the road now, because now we've got the bypass. Before the bypass came, you couldn't cross the road. It took you half an hour to cross the road. You'd have to walk from this end of the village to the other end of the village to press the button on the Pelican crossing to cross the road. We got a petition going so that the road wouldn't go through along the old railway line that they wanted to build the road and split the village in two. So there's a petition and there was a meeting in the church house not to do that the council should buy some farmland above the village, and it was all wasteland. It wasn't very good land anyway to build the bypass. So that's what they did, thank goodness, and it was a great improvement to the village. Otherwise this village would have been in 2 parts, and they were prepared to knock down houses, people living in their homes, it was totally unacceptable that they should knock people's houses down for a road.
Today, a stone commemorates the opening of the bypass. One of the continuing debates about the village is its name, whether it should be called Felinheli or Port Dinorwic.
The village has had 3, if not 4 names actually. It first started its life in the far end where I said Port Church was. And that area is called Aberpwll, and that's where the village first, the Aberpwll and Sailor, that's where the village first came to life really. So that, eventually the village expanded this way towards Carnarvon, and it was given the name Felinheli, mainly because of, reputed anyway, the salt mill that used to be near the entrance to where the lock gates are now down in the docks there. There was a salt mill there, worked by the tides. Then when the Ashton Smiths became owners of the Dinorwic quarry and the area down by the tidal quay, came out of the tidal quay, they changed the name of the village then to Port Dinorwic. And that carried on until, being called Port Dinorwic, until about, 15, maybe 20 years ago now, when the Community Council decided, after the port here had finished, the slates, quarries had closed in about 1969, they decided to revert back to the original name of Felinheli, which is what it is now.
Susan Jones, in particular, finds the name change totally unnecessary.
The village, when I was a little girl, the village was always known to me as Port Dinorwic. I signed my address on letters as Port Dinorwic. All the letter headings that my parents had was Port Dinorwic. A community council decision was made to change the name from Port Dinorwic to Felinheli. Why? I'm still puzzled because of it. They wanted the old name back. Felinheli was a village 200 years ago with 3-4 houses, small cottages. Port Dinorwic was created during the Industrial Revolution when all the slates from Dinorwic quarries came down to the port. Port Dinorwic was created. That's how my great ancestry came here. My great-great-grandparents came to the village because of the slates. They came for work. And I think because of their efforts and their working ethics, good people, why change the name? Here, the new marina, where it was built on the old dockway. Not the 1970s marina, the 90s marina I'm talking about, the Watkin Jones marina. I really objected to that because I think that the council should have got their act together and bought it off Ivor Jones and built a lovely community centre, library, bowling green, tennis courts, and it should have been there for the community to improve our standards of living in this village. And the style of houses, they should never have been past the style of houses. It's not in keeping with the village at all. They should have been 2-storey, small houses to extend the existing the existing beach road from the Garve on. So it would have looked like a proper bay, you know? That's how I thought if they were going to do anything with the houses. But when I saw the plans, I nearly cried that they built the houses right up to the dock walls like that.
Managing director of the village's marina since 1997 and has viewed many dramatic changes from it being a run-down dockyard to a now highly modernised place of work and a place to live. He explains how some of the history has been retained in the marina despite these changes.
You know, the lock gates are the exact same lock gates as they were back in 1902, and we maintain them in the same way and using the same materials as they were maintained and constructed of back then. It's the same with the bridge that passes over the dock. That is the original bridge and just maintained. The dry dock, we're giving it a new lease of life and reopening it this year. So a lot of the historic trades that were in the village associated with the port are being maintained. What we've tried to do, in connection obviously with the architects and the planners, is by building this facilities block on the side of the marina, we didn't want to build a modern building adjacent to a listed dock. It would be totally out of character. So the plans were drawn up very much with everyone being very conscious of the listed structure, the history of the dock and its usage. Hence this building has been, whilst it's built of modern materials, it's all been clad in local.
It's also down in the marina, if you notice at the end towards the bottom of Snowdon Street of the marina, you notice in there's quite a tall chimney. It's made entirely of slate blocks. And that was built as part of the works that were down there then. It was called the Yard Stad. And that was in order to, it had to be tall because the works were in a dip. And in order for the smoke, to get the smoke and stuff out the way and enough draft, it had to be quite tall. But it's built entirely of slate blocks. And there was a threat when the work finished in that area of them pulling it down. And it's something quite unique. So we decided on the community council, the parish council as it was then, to get a preservation order put on it, which we succeeded in doing, so that when the marina came to be built, they had to build around the chimney stack. They can't pull it down. That's safe for the village, and it's something that's well worth keeping, I think.